Hi. In today's video, I'm going to discuss about a case study, which is majorly an high-level explanation over the case study, which is majorly useful for business analyst as well as data analyst teams. Because as in when we know the role of a business analyst as a data analyst have a variation, because business analysts are the people who majorly focusing on the business requirements and providing solutions accordingly. As far as the role of a data analyst itself is concerned, working on data, there is some structured data which is important, right? So based on the data, what they have taken and how this can be analyzed and how this can be implemented. End of the day, what solution, what decision are we taking in business is what something which being into data analyst teams, anyone can do, right? So in that regard, whatever the kind of tools they were using, normally BAs will use different tools for project management, tracking, etc., like Jira, SQL, Power BI, right? So these are all different tools will be used in this regard. Even UML, right? So all that, right? So star UML, etc. So role of a data analyst, majorly, they will be working on some Excel, at the same time Python, SQL, right? So these are all different, even some of the statistical tools like SPSS, uh, tools like, right? So different statistical tools will be used in the dark programming, right? So these are all different tools we use. So when being into business analyst as well as data analyst roles, as far as the requirements are concerned in context to the job requirements itself is concerned, whenever we are applying for jobs, whenever we are attending an interview, it's always important for us to explain, right? So what was our experience and what was our exposure when we attend for any interviews and all everything. This is what something which is essentially needed. In this regard, anyone, whoever wants to implement or whoever wants to work on the projects, it's always important for them to understand as well as adopt the kind of case studies or the project experiences what they have undergone, and how this can be presented to the people is what something you need to have, including practical understanding, etc., so that it elevates our professional experience and it creates an opportunity, right? So among other people, right, it create an opportunity for us to work in that field. Either it can be a business analyst field or it can be a data analyst field, all that. In that regard, whatever the case study I have taken, this is a case study, of course, in high level explanation over the case study is what something which I'm explaining to you. Because when people enroll for business analyst or data analyst course, usually people require to have some training and coaching. In addition to that, to have some live exposure, usually I give case studies to the people so that they get some live exposure out of it, right? So in this regard, I thought of making one explanation for the case study, so which might be useful to the people who are learning BA as well as data analyst, or who wants to learn, or who are already learned and applying for job opportunities and all, or else people who are already working as a BA or data analyst. For everyone, it is something useful to them. Now, when we try to understand about the case study or a project, right, there are few elements to be known. First, we must be knowing about the customer. We must be knowing about the challenge, what customer is going through, and what solutions are we going to provide, and what finally the results we are going to establish, right? So these are the major things which being into an individual or a professional, one has to be known with. In this regard, it's always important for us to understand about the customer. So first, customer who and what kind of customer we are, right? So first of all, right? So normally for a customer, because the kind of case study we have taken is a case study of analyzing the sales analysis, I can say, analyzing the sales through data analytics, right? So because end of the day, if you want to analyze the sales, data is important. There must be a concrete data which is essentially required, needed. So based on the data, what we have taken, that will be interpreted. We do the interpretation, observation. Finally, recommendations will be given. Based on the decision will be taken further. In this regard, it's always important for us to know about the customer first, right? So here as an example, customer is a person who is belongs to the retail and FMCG side, right? So where they have spread it across 200 markets with a half a billion consumers with almost 30,000 employees across the globe. Because end of the day, if it's a FMCG or retail market, which is a bigger market across the world, lot of sales happens, right? So in the retails and etc. So where someone has to address all that, right? This is what generally the customer one should understand, because if you know about the customer, you can assess to an extent possible what could be their business situation, problem, etc. In this regard, it's always important for us to know about this. Next, we must be knowing about the kind of challenge they were facing. This is what generally the kind of challenge which customer is facing, because the customer having different national branches which was distributing 50 SKUs and all in marketing channel comprises of 5 larger retail chains, etc. and all that. If they wants to perform data and sales analysis and all, customer has to collect the data from the retailers. These data will be in different formats, right? So it can be a document format, it can be in video format, it can be in PDF, it can be PNG, JPEG, right? So different multiple files and formats will be there, right? So collecting all the formats of data is what something we do. Normally, whenever we have taken the data from multiple files in the formats and all, we have to reduce the productivity of effort, unnecessary effort of reducing the productivity by employees is what something which we have to reduce it, so that effective deliverables as well as the solutions will be given by them. So whatever the kind of analysis we want to have, this analysis must be an holistic view. So when it comes to the solution provider role itself is concerned, we want to develop a system, right? So which would process and unify to data, which delivers advanced retail analysis, all that, right? So analytics, all that. This is what generally the challenge which customer is facing. Now, by considering this into consideration, being into the role of a business analyst as well as data analyst, because BA activities were slightly varied, because requirement perspective business analyst will be focused more on. At the same time, data analyst will be focusing on the data perspective. So this can be managed with through, because by making some small changes and modifications in this can be even addressed by the BA roles as well as for DA roles, that is data analyst roles. The reason I mentioned that point in the beginning itself. Now, when it comes to the solution and all that, these are the solutions are we going to provide? Because if you want to provide the solution, do remember, if there is any kind of implementation has to be done by the data analyst or someone, there must be someone who has to gather the requirements in backend. That's where generally BA role come into picture. That's the reason why this is a case study which I have told you is useful for both the people. Now, coming back to the solution, there were 3 solutions were identified. One is about the web client, second is about the data warehouse, followed by analysis services. When it comes to the web client, it's a kind of tool which is installed on the application server, which will be used to upload as well as view and edit the data in the system. At the same time, if you want to upload any kind of files, back roles, at the same time, if you want to view any kind of uploading logs or initiating the process of data in maybe data warehouses or some any kind of OLAP cubes, right? So all these things are comes under one. Now, when it comes to the one more solution for data warehousing, where this stores major data and prepares it for the further processes by the analytical engines and all that. This data warehousing consists of data, right, in relating to the sales, like quantity of the product sold to the stores and all, sales out, right? So quantity of the product sold from the stores, and stock means the stock which is already available on the store. Everything can be managed in the data warehouse, because data is larger in retailing in FMCG sector, using different storage procedures, tools and all everything. Data warehousing is what something we have to do. We have to implement it. Next is analysis services. So when it comes to the analysis services as an analytical engine, there are different ones like SQL service analysis services or SSAs, all that, which majorly aggregates whatever the kind of data we want to take, either it can be monthly data or weekly data and all that. By implementing the multi-dimensional models like OLAP cubes and all everything, so that it will be transmitted to the front-end applications using Power Pivot or MS Excel and all that. So these cubes have different dimensions, like for retail chains and all that. Either, for example, if you want to take any kind of sales growth in particular store for a certain period of time, all these things can be addressed as far as the analysis services itself is concerned in solution. Finally, what benefit customer is trying to get out of it, end of the day, that is important, right? So customer will get a benefit here because customer should be able in a position to identify the sales trends because of the implementation what we do. So that finding out which SKUs and stores showed the best performance and all. Subsequently, we can estimate the growth potential as well as optimizing the sales and marketing activities and all. So as a solution provider, developing planning to implement and elaborating data visualization using some Power BI, etc. All these things can be done in this regard. These are the final end deliverables as well as the results which customer can see. For this, the kind of technologies we have used is about MS Windows Server or SQL, all that. At the same time, .NET will be used for the implementation, .NET and as well as ASP.NET and all. Bootstrap at the same time, Power Pivot and MS Excel, right? So these are the technologies which can be used as far as the implementation of the project itself is concerned. So this is what and how usually the case study one has to understand. Right? So if you want to understand about the case study, if you want to implement this to have some practical exposure, so role of a business analyst from the requirements gathering perspective, at the same time, the role of a data analyst from the data perspective, one must be having some exposure. This is how generally the explanation we have to give. This is what something which I usually teach and coach my team member, my people, right? So whoever is enrolled for me, right? So for the training for BA or data analysis and all that. This is what some couple of case studies. I don't say this is the only one, but usually, right? So this is not the one, but there are other case studies even I'll be taken so that to have some live exposure so that they get some confidence. So it will be useful to them when they are applying for jobs or when they're attending for interviews or they wants to make their professional career more effective in the field of business analyst roles or data analyst roles is all about. This is all about this video. If you have any questions, if you have any queries, please reach out to the contact details, which will be posted in below to this video. Thank you.